Hi, it's Pete from See Your Toes again, and this is podcast number 40. I've finally reached the big 40. When I started, I certainly didn't think I'd make it to 40, but here we are. Today, I would like to talk about why do you want to lose weight? Now, this is going to be aimed at people who aren't happy with their current situation. And that really, let's face it, that's most people. Even if you think of yourself as being fairly trim, then, or if you think of yourself especially as being normal, then perhaps you realize that normal these days isn't quite what normal used to be like, and perhaps you feel you could be better than you are. So I'd like to talk about why we want to lose weight, and I'd also like to talk about how, especially if you have come to a grinding halt, if the methods you're using at the moment don't seem to be working, let's talk about why they're not working so we can work our way through them. So why do you want to lose weight? Let's start right from the beginning. Let's build up a basis of why. Here's a few options of why you might want to lose weight. The first one, perhaps you want to look better. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let's face it. People like people who look healthy. People are attracted to people who look healthy. People generally aren't attracted to somebody who looks unhealthy. Now, you might be single. You might be on a dating site. For example, I'm on a dating site. I would like to think that I look healthy and attractive to other people. And certainly when I'm on the dating site and I'm looking through the other people who are the women in this instance who are on the dating site as well, 90% of those women are overweight. Yes, they are all in their middle age, but 90% of them would be overweight. A slim, healthy-looking person is something that's not the norm. So that's just how it is. That's just how life is at the moment. I was thinking just before, when I was at school, which I will admit is a wee while ago, say in the 70s, in my class, most of the kids were skinny. It's not because they were nutritionally deficient, it's just because of the foods they ate. Most of them were skinny. There were a few kids that were probably a little less than skinny, and then there was often the one fat kid. And that's kind of how society was. Being overweight was something that was unusual. These days, if you're skinny, then you're unusual in yourself. If you are what people would call average weight these days, back in the 70s, we probably would have said that they had a fairly good lifestyle. They might have been a bit wealthier than the rest of us, and they could afford fancier foods because they were bigger than the rest of us. What is normal today isn't what used to be normal. And that fat kid back in the 70s, well, he's probably like 50% of the kids in the class at the moment in a 2024 class. And that's the difference between how people lived in the 70s to how people live now. I'm probably digressing a little bit, but I just wanted to get that out there. So the point is, if you look at yourself now and you say you're a guy and you're 80, 90 kilos, let's go a bit higher. If you say you're 90, 100 kilos, which is, say 100 kilos is 220 pounds, and you think, I'm about average. The thing about that is your about average is different from how a person's average was 50 years ago. Now, that's not because the 50 years ago person was unhealthy. If anything, they were much healthier. The fact is, although we live longer these days, it's not because we are healthier. It's the opposite. We live longer because of a better medical system that keeps us alive longer, and it stops us from dying more often. So when somebody has a heart attack now, they're likely to survive if they get help. Whereas in the 70s, if you had a heart attack, there's every chance you didn't get help and you died. So what's average now wasn't average then. So if you have, say, 90 or 100 kilos weight to you, say 200, 220 pounds, then hang on, let me convert that into stones. So if I go, say, 100 kilos times 6 point, I think it's around 6.5. That's not going to work. 100 kilos divided by 6.5. You're probably around, say, 15, 16 stone, maybe around that mark. That gives you an idea for the Brits amongst us. So in that instance, if you're 15 or 16 stone, say 200, 220 pounds, 90 to 100 kilos, then you can probably really afford to lose 20 kilos, which is 20% of your body weight. And that's probably 20 kilos that's fat. So that's just something to think about. So that's the first thing. How we look might be why we want to lose weight. And I think that's really important because how we look is also helping us determine what naturally, innately we view as healthy. A skinny person isn't necessarily healthy. We've all seen skinny people and thought, they don't look very healthy. They might have an illness. They might be somebody to avoid, because that's how our brains work. We are innately designed to avoid sick people and to avoid people that aren't healthy. And we're innately designed to be attracted to people who look and act and sound healthy. The second reason you might want to lose weight, which is directly related, is because of health. So that person that looks healthy because they don't have a lot of weight on is probably healthy. If you are overweight, then you know that you're probably of not wonderful health. If you have health issues, if you're getting migraines a lot, if you are always out of breath, if you struggle to stand up, struggle to walk around, you're often tired, you often feel like crap. It could be, you could also, of course, have diabetes. You could have even heart disease starting up and you don't even know it. You could have high blood pressure and you're not aware of that. There are so many things in the health sector that could be wrong with you inside your own body. A lot of those things you may not even know, but you know you're overweight and you know you're not comfortable. You know that if you're a grandparent and there's the baby on the floor, that you may not be able to get down onto the floor to change their nappy, and you certainly may not be able to get back up off the floor once you're down there. Now, that isn't wonderful. Wouldn't it be nice if you had all of the flexibility and all of the movement, body movement that you had, say, 20 or 30 years ago? A lot of that can be attributed to losing weight. So there's another why your reason why you want to lose weight is because of health, but that can also just be the likes of mobility. Here's a third why before we move on. The third why might be because a lot of people who are overweight die earlier. We know that. We know that if you have diabetes, you may not die of diabetes. This is type 2 I'm talking about. This is the one that people get because they've been having a wonderful, extravagant life. If you have type 2 diabetes, you're not likely to die of diabetes, but it has been shown that you're something like 30% more likely to have heart failure. You're much more likely to get Alzheimer's disease. There are other ways that you die, and it's not because of Alzheimer's. It's not because of diabetes that you die. It's these other related things that make you that pop you off. And that's the thing, of course. Then your mortality is written down as heart failure. It's not written down as diabetes. You died because of diabetes, and therefore people don't think diabetes is that important. I'll just take the medication the doctor gave me, and I'll be fine. So that's a health factor that is directly related to your weight and can be fixed. So the thing about it, therefore, is, are you in the mood to make a revolution? I'm going to use that big word, revolution. The revolution isn't getting us out of a communist state, because certainly in Britain where I'm at the moment, to my knowledge, we're not in one. I'm talking about the revolution that's inside your body. Do we want to create a revolution to make you a person that you want to be, that you aspire to be physically, and for that matter mentally, because we also know, and if you don't believe me, listen to my other podcasts with guests, we know how many people have serious mental illness problems, issues, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. All of those were related to being overweight, being obese. It has huge correlation between being overweight and having mental illness. So I digress again. So your revolution could be because of mental illness. It could be because you've decided it's time to become slimmer. It's time to become healthier. It's time to do something about this. And it's easy to say, I'll do it tomorrow. It sounds like hard work. And it is bloody hard work. It's hard work and it's relentless. It's not something you're going to do for the next couple of months to lose weight for that wedding, to lose weight for that event coming up, to lose weight for your dating app so that when you find somebody you can go back to eating all that crap and get fat again. It's none of that. It's trying to make you want to be healthier for yourself. Most of the diseases, I'm going to digress again here just for a second. Most of the diseases that are chronic, that pop people's clogs, have been created over the last 20 years inside your body. Diabetes, I just mentioned, type 2 diabetes, doesn't just happen. It's taken 20 years of you doing what you're doing, your current lifestyle that has created that event. I call it an event because you go to the doctor and he says, I'm sorry, but you've got type 2 diabetes. What? When did that happen? Well, it's happened over the last 20 years, but it's just that it's finally tipped over the scale, basically, sir, madam, mademoiselle. Oh, crap. Heart disease. Heart disease doesn't just happen. Heart disease takes years to build up. Obesity alone takes years and years to build up. You just slowly get bigger and bigger and bigger, and suddenly you look in the mirror and think, oh, Jesus, where did that come from? Alzheimer's, dementia, I believe they're different, but I still haven't figured out how because I'm not an expert on that field. They have taken several years, decades, 20 years to get to that stage. So it's 20 years of you eating the wrong foods, living the wrong lifestyle has created effectively what's happening inside your brain that has caused Alzheimer's. What else is there? There's gout, of course. There's all sorts of things. There's quite a long list, and it annoys me that I can't remember them straight off like this. So there's all of those health benefits that you might be interested in curtailing, and a great time to curtail it is today. And that's your revolution. That's you saying, hey, crap, I've had enough of this bullshit. I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to fix myself for good, and I'm going to start today. If you're only 90 kilos and you think you want to be 70 kilos, or say 75 is probably 80 kilos, 80 kilos would probably be a good step. So you're currently 90, you want to be 80. Then it's a revolution. It's a case of knowing how to lose that weight. If you're 140 kilos, if you're, say, 250 pounds or 300 pounds, you've got a lot of work to do. But it's not too late. That's your revolution. Why? So that you can be healthier, you can look better, if that's important to you, and most importantly, you can be around for a little bit longer in this world, because I hate to break it to you, the one thing that is constant for all of us, every one of us in this world, the billions of people who live on earth, the one thing we all have in common is that we're all going to die. When we die is up to us, as long as we don't get run over by a bus. Having a chronic illness is a fast track to dying earlier. Now, that was one of my other whys that I had forgotten, and I'm going to try to remember now before I forget again. Why do you want to lose weight? Could be because I want to live longer for my spouse, for my children, for my grandchildren, for the people who love me. I was thinking yesterday when I was walking, dying is a really selfish event. You bugger off. You're dead. You're gone. You could be religious and say, oh, but my spirit is going to live on. That hasn't been proven. The fact is, you die, you're gone. All of the people who loved you are left over to pick up the tab. My neighbour, his wife died quite suddenly a year or two ago, and he's been devastated. The last 2 years of his life have been devastating. You can see it in his eyes every time you look at him. His cheerful disposition is just not there anymore. He did spend the first year with, every time we talked to him, he'd well up. He was mentally screwed because his wife had died on him. Now, she didn't mean to die on him. I'm sure she'd love to be alive today, but she did. She did die, and looking back, she did probably die of a chronic illness. Oh, well, an illness related. I know why she died, and it was something that probably could have been avoided with a better lifestyle. So think of your grandchildren. You're not going to see them grow up. Think of your children. They might not be ready for you to pass on. Think of your spouse, though, because that's the big one. They're going to have to live alone. They might not want to live alone. They might not be ready to live alone. They might have imagined getting old together. And if you're only 40, 50, 60, then that's not getting old together. That's just middle age. Getting old together means 75, 85, 90. Wouldn't that be nice? So that's another really good reason to get your shit together today. Just saying. So there are lots of ways that you can lose weight. The fact is, and I'm going back to those people in the 70s, they ate standard food. And as far as I'm concerned, all of this is food related. I don't think that there are too many other reasons in the world why people are much bigger than they used to be apart from the food we eat. It's been proven over and over again. Doctors will ignore food that you eat because, to be frank, they haven't been trained in food. They've been trained in all sorts of stuff, and I am amazed with, well, first of all, the intelligence to be a damn doctor in the first place. I never had that level of intelligence when I was at university. To do that is amazing. To learn what they know is amazing. But the fact is, what they learnt about diet and food is minimal. It can be written on the back of a postage stamp. Half of the people don't even know what a postage stamp is now, but that's another story. So they don't know a lot about diet and food. Then you come to dietitians, and unfortunately they've all been taught the same thing from the same people. And to be frank, as far as I'm concerned, that whole food pyramid that you probably all know with lots of carbohydrates at the bottom is the sole reason why we are where we are today. And I can get down to the politics of that, and that all happened in the 1960s when a certain scientist told everybody what they should eat. They should remove saturated fats, they should eat more carbohydrates, they should stop eating salt, and they should eat less protein. And sugar was fine. It's been proven that sugar is good for us, and fats, especially saturated fats, are really bad for us. Everybody followed his lead, and that's at that stage when, over the next 10 or 20 years from the late 60s, slowly the Western world health went down the toilet. To the extent now that is really down the toilet. We are so much less healthy than we were back in the 70s. Or the 60s. That's because of the food we eat. That's because of 50, 60 years of eating lots of carbohydrates, eating lots of sugar. As we've gone through history, we've got more and more processed foods, and these are what are creating your excess weight. It's not the protein, it's not the saturated fat. Saturated fat was said to give us heart failure and clogged arteries and heart disease. That's all been shown to be bullshit. Pardon the French. It's actually sugars that create those problems. I digress again. I know I've talked about this in previous podcasts. So we need to change the foods in our lifestyle. Now, that's what I was saying. In the 70s, people didn't need to change the foods in their lifestyle. They ate everything that they could get hold of. They ate, I'm imagining a plate that Mum would have dropped in front of me. It would have had a big pile of mashed potatoes. I would have chucked a big lump of butter onto that and let it melt because that made the potatoes taste so much better. I would have chucked a bit of salt on my plate. This is when I was, a kid, 5 years old. We would have had maybe lamb chops or mutton because this was New Zealand and mutton was cheap. Mutton, of course, is an old sheep, whereas lamb is the new sheep. We might have had a bit of roast beef. Not that often. Beef was always expensive. Mum used to make brain fritters, which were sheep's brains. So they were all right, actually. I enjoyed brain fritters. She minced them up and added a few herbs and spices and then fried them. And she used to always keep when she did, say, a mutton roast, she'd always keep all of the fat that came out of the out of the roasting pan. And that was the basis of what she cooked with. She used that fat, which is basically similar to lard or I guess tallow. And that was her standard cooking. So she didn't buy vegetable oil. At that stage, I don't think vegetable oil was really a thing. Vegetable oil has been known to cause all sorts of issues, but I digress. Again, so where I'm at here is if you want to make a change, if you want to become someone different, if you want to have a revolution with your body, you have to change what you are eating. What I was saying is that back in the 70s, we didn't really nobody cared about what they ate. They just ate the same thing, which is pretty much what they'd eaten all their lives and what their parents and their parents and their parents had taught them to eat. We all ate the same thing. There was no such thing as diets. I remember Mum used to go on a diet every now and again, but not very often. And that's because we didn't have all the fast foods, all the processed foods, all of the cans of soda pop and all of that sort of stuff. We didn't have sugar as readily available as we do now. Sugar was still a commodity. I remember I could have some sugar in my cocoa, but I certainly couldn't have sugar in my tea because sugar in tea was just, you're just going to go to hell if you have sugar in your tea. It was as simple as that. Sugar was a bit of a commodity. I do remember putting loads of it on my Wheat Bix for breakfast, drowning the Wheat Bix in milk and then pouring sugar all over it. So we were already in the 70s, late 60s, we were already down that sugar route. But certainly a few years before, we know that in the war, for example, sugar was really hard to get hold of. So the difference is that back in the 70s, nobody had to really worry about their weight because obesity wasn't a thing. Being fat wasn't a thing. People ate good, balanced meals. These days, people don't eat good, balanced meals, even though they're told that they are. They're told that this is what you should eat, and yet they still get fat. It's also because back in those days, I think a pizza bought from a pizza shop probably would have cost half of the weekly wage, whereas these you can buy a pizza, let's face it, you can buy a jumbo pizza for probably 10 quid, sort of $12, I guess. You can eat yourself stupid on all sorts of takeaways. I know neighbours who eat takeaways, McDonald's, pizzas, KFC, several times a week. And so you've got all of this processed food going down their guts all the time. And then they're washing that down with bottles of Coke. Orange juice if they're feeling healthy. Orange juice is full of sugar. Their food style, the type of food, it's not so much the amount of food, but the type of food we are eating these days on average as a population is completely different to how it was in the 70s when people were so much healthier. So what I'm saying is that people in the 70s didn't have to cut down their weight. They just had to basically stay the way they were. What you have to do is is reduce your weight, is reduce your body fat, and to do so, therefore, you have to put in different measures. And that's where people say, I just eat a balanced meal, I just eat everything in moderation. Well, that's fine if you don't have any excess weight, if you don't plan to have to lose any, that's fine and dandy. It's funny, though, I've heard people say that, and then I look at them and say, mate, somebody should tell your ass that, because it's not working. Because a balanced saying that I just eat everything in moderation normally means I eat everything, and sometimes I do use moderation. So for you, if you want to lose weight, and this is where I'm getting to, and I'm sorry it's taken so long, if you want to lose weight, then we have to perform a few different things. We have to change what food you eat. And the one single biggest thing you can do today to make that change is get sugar out of your life. So you can start with, obviously, sugar in your cup of tea or coffee. Start with not drinking full sugar sodas like Coke and all that sort of stuff. You can stop eating processed foods that have lots of sugar in them. And if you don't know if sugar's in the processed food, assume it is. Have a look on the label at the back. It'll say protein, fat, carbohydrates, of which are sugars, and it'll give a percentage value. And you will probably be amazed with how much sugar is chucked into processed foods, because sugar makes processed foods taste better. If they taste better, you buy them more often, and the manufacturer makes more money. The manufacturer doesn't give a rat's ass about your health. They just want to sell the product. That's really going to prevent you from putting more weight on. But the trouble is, if you want to lose weight, or if you've stalled because you're on some sort of weight loss diet, you want to stop stalling and get back to losing weight, then at that stage it takes a different level. And there are other ways to do it, I'm sure. There is certainly the calorie restriction method. Try saying that 10 times. The calorie restriction method, which is, let's face it, that's what most of the big dieting companies work on. They work on cutting down some of the foods you eat, and certainly getting processed foods out of your life and a lot of the sugar, and then they restrict your calories. The problem with that is when you restrict your calories, quite often your body goes into starvation mode, and it says, oh, there's obviously a lack of food in my world out there, so I'd better start looking after myself better. And in your body's term of looking after itself better in starvation mode, it means slowing your metabolism down, so you feel tired more often, is the easiest way of saying it. And also it will hold on to your fat reserves, because I might need those. If it's a bit lean out there food-wise, I'm going to need to hold on to this fat for as long as I can. So it will slow your body down, and then your body will also say, right, any muscle tissue that I've got that I don't need, I'll start using that for food, because your body can break down your muscles and use that energy, those nutrients, for food. And it will do so. And that's why a lot of people who go on diets, including some of the big well-known diets, they will lose weight. They'll look a little bit pasty and unhealthy afterwards, and they will have lost some fat, and they would have lost a lot of muscle. And then when they stop dieting, then they don't have as much muscle, which generally burns food. So they'll end up packing even more weight on, and that's that terrible cycle. Here's a fun fact. Did you know 95% of people who start to diet in the purpose of losing weight fail? That's across the board. Now, I know a lot of people who start a low carbohydrate diet fail too, and that's often because of a number of reasons. They can say things like, it was just too hard, which it's not. They can say, oh, it's too expensive, which it's not. They'll probably save money. Oh, it made me feel really bad and I had to quit. Well, that will be after day 4. I talk about that in my podcast number 1. Take a listen to it. Day 4, you will feel like crap because that's your body getting rid of all the last bit of glucose in your body, sugar, and then having a switch over to burning fat. So, yes, it's called the keto flu. A lot of people make a big deal about it. It lasts for 1 day, and if you can pop through the other side of that, you will feel amazing. What other reasons? Oh, it just doesn't suit my lifestyle. Well, that's of course because your lifestyle has made you fat. That's why you are fat now, because of your lifestyle. If you can sense in my voice, I do get quite excited about this. If you want to lose weight, if you want to lose body fat and maintain that muscle, then you've got to change your lifestyle because your lifestyle isn't working. You've got to make that change, and you've got to look at it with open eyes. Have a look what influence other people might be having on you. Is it people in your family? Oh, come on, let's have some more takeaways tonight. I can't be bothered cooking. Let's grab a pizza. Oh, look, one more big bit of cake. It's your friend's birthday. My friend, I hardly even bloody know him. Especially alcohol, of course. You can be guzzling down 2 or 3 pints every night. That doesn't help. Or that extra glass of white wine. Gin and tonic with full sugar tonic. Bourbon and Coke, one of my favourites. With full sugar Coke. There's all these sugars coming into it. That's your lifestyle. You may, if you're serious, you may need to look at your lifestyle and make some changes. And when people say to you, you're not the same enjoyable, happy person as you used to be, normally what that means is you're making me feel guilty because I'm eating all this shit, I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're not. And you're not getting bigger and bigger, and I'm starting to get a bit jealous and a bit pissed off, to be frank. That's my rant. So what I was saying is getting rid of sugars out of your life altogether, which means getting rid of carbohydrates out of your life. That's how you will make the biggest improvement. It will also be how you can save on your muscles, your muscle fibers, your muscle tissue. So you're going to lose fat without losing muscle. And that's because you're not, if you follow what I suggest, podcast number 1, if you follow that properly, then you won't lose muscle because you will make your body burn fat instead of burning carbohydrates. And so when you do that, once your body starts burning fat because you're eating lots of yummy, healthy fats, and you're not eating carbohydrates, so your body isn't being fueled from carbohydrates anymore, your body has to switch over to using fats as its form of fuel. That's what keeps you awake during the day. It's what keeps you mobile, is you're burning fats. It's very similar to switching from burning petrol to burning diesel. And obviously you chuck petrol into a diesel engine, it doesn't work very well. And that's kind of, to a certain degree, that's kind of what you're doing to your body, only with a diesel engine, chucking petrol in it will happen instantly. With your body chucking carbohydrates into your body instead of fats, that's happening really slowly, chronically, over the last 10, 20 years, which is why you are fat, which is why you are possibly pre-diabetic or diabetic, which is possibly why you've got high blood pressure, the potential for heart disease, and so on. You may have what they call high cholesterol. Don't get me started on that. I do have a podcast listed somewhere about cholesterol, and cholesterol is such an amazing, amazing product that the human body has created, and it gets slagged off so much by the health system, and it's so important to us all. Please, if you are told that you have high cholesterol, treat it with a grain of salt. Normally it means what they should be interested in is your high triglycerides. And if you get a blood test, it should tell you your cholesterol, and then it should tell you your triglycerides. Remove sugar from your diet. Wham bam, thank you ma'am, you'll get rid of your cholesterol problem. Your triglycerides will go way down. Your very low LDL, known as VLDL, will go way down, and they're the two things that cause your high blood pressure, and they cause your arteries to block up. So there you go. I'm raving again. So number 1, get rid of all of your carbohydrates. Go to podcast number 1, take a listen to it to give you, because I don't want to start all that again. I'll never bloody stop. The second one is binge eating, and this is related to this. This is the second reason why you may struggle to lose weight, by the way. It could be because of binge eating. I am a binge eater. I only figured this out a few months ago after talking to one of my guests. And for me, binge eating happens when I eat sugary foods. I'll go to a conference or a day job meeting, and at morning tea time, there'll be a whole bunch of really delicious cakes and biscuits and slices and all sorts of crap. And once I've eaten one, I have compared it with being an alcoholic. Once I've eaten one, I can't stop. And I will just eat until I feel a little bit sick, and then I can eat a bit more. Now that's binge eating. And it's almost always related to sugars again, or carbohydrates like chips and stuff, crisps. What happens there is that the sugar is overriding, well, there's two things. Your sugar is overriding your satiety hormone, which is the hormone that makes you feel full. So therefore you can eat more. And that's why you can binge. So you binge and binge and binge. You eat and eat and eat. You can feel sick. I can feel sick. I can feel physically sick and go and grab another cake, another slice, and eat it. And that's my body, ecologically talking, from millennia ago, knowing how to survive a winter. It's designed, my body is designed to eat sugary foods because they only used to turn up for about a month a year, and we used to eat and eat and eat. And I've talked about that in other podcasts too. That's how we are designed. That's how our bodies have evolved, to use sugar as a way of getting fat for winter. But now, of course, we can get sugar any time we want, down the shop, at a party, at the pub, in the form of alcohol. We can get sugar from all over the place. We eat so much sugar. It's not a 1 month a year anything anymore. It's a every day of the year. So we keep putting fat on for winter, and we never lose that fat over winter. So binge eating is something to be aware of. If you're a binge eater, I can emphatically say, if you remove sugars and carbohydrates from your diet, then your binge eating problem will cease practically overnight. Another way that we can get you out of stalling and get you into losing weight, and this is if you have stalled, then this will work. If you are just looking at it now and thinking, yes, it's time for my revolution, then another way is to not snack. So you eat proper meals, might be breakfast, lunch, tea, and that's it. You do not snack between meals. Snacking between meals is preventing your body from going and using your fat reserves. Basically, it's your stomach saying, yep, come on, keep feeding me. I'm getting a bit low on energy. I need you to chuck some more energy down my throat so I can use that and leave my fat reserves, i.e. my fat bum, my belly fat, my bat wings. I can leave those alone because all you need to do is feed me a bit more, and the way you can do that is by snacking. So you have to avoid snacking. Eat 2 or 3 meals a day. I quite often eat 2 meals a day. I'll eat 3 if I did a legs workout last night. I didn't, but a couple of nights ago I did. And I had lunch the following day because I got hungry at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I got hungry because my legs, I did a heavy workout. I did a really good workout. I was really pleased with the weights I lifted. It meant my body had a lot of repairing to do, which made me hungrier. I listened to my body. I said, right, I can eat lunch today. I have no drama with that at all. And I ate it. It wasn't a huge lunch, just enough to put some more food in my belly, which was all protein and fat. and then I ate again at sort of 7 o'clock at night as I usually do. So eat 2 or 3 good meals a day. Now, what would those meals look like? If you follow my protocol, again, what I've talked about in the past, you will see that there's a lot of protein in there. Please forget everything you've heard about protein giving you. Isn't it funny how people will so quickly yell that protein gives you kidney disease, it does this, it's so bad for you, but they're more than happy for you to wolf down all those effing pizzas and McDonald's and Burger King and KFC, and they don't give a crap. But if you eat too much protein, you'll die. Kidney failure. It's absolute bullshit. It really is. I'm sorry for the language. It frustrates the crap out of me. I eat quite a bit of protein. I try to eat, if you're going to be technical about it, I try to eat about 140 to 150 grams a day. So I'm not going to work that out in ounces. I can never figure out ounces without looking it up on Google. 140 or 150 grams a day. That's for me. I'm 73-ish kilograms in weight. And that works out as, well, it's roughly 2 grams per kilogram. And I find that works well with me. I also eat a lot of fat. So whether it's breakfast or tea or lunch, when I have lunch, I chuck in lots of butter. I'll put cheese on there. The meat that I eat is fatty, which incidentally is cheaper. I can't remember the last time I ate a fillet steak. I normally eat sirloin or ribeye because they are cheaper and because they've got lots of fat marbling in amongst the meat. And that fat is good. And the fat that comes out of the steak, I normally pour over the steak from the fry pan. So fat is good, and again, I mentioned that in my other podcasts. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, in as much as to say, though, once your body switches to being able to burn fat, then fat is really important for you because that's your food resource, and that's what we're going to talk about next. People who are worried about saturated fats and cholesterol and heart disease and heart attacks, because again, we've been told all of this since the 1960s, and it's bullshit. The chap who came up with all of that strategy was basing it on a bunch of misleading information. It can't be proven, but he probably knew it was misleading, but he needed to say something because he was under a bit of pressure from the president who had, I think it was President Eisenhower, who had a heart attack. And he was told to find a reason why he had a heart attack and fix the nation's health issue. Again, the president had a heart attack because he was probably living quite a luxurious lifestyle, let's face it. So he did put lots of weight on. He would have had a heart attack because of all the sugar he was eating. But the scientist blamed the heart attack on saturated fats based on some very loose evidence. And he told the whole world, and the whole world changed. And so you and I grew up knowing that saturated fats are bad. But saturated fats aren't bad. Meat does not cause you high cholesterol. Eggs don't cause high cholesterol. And meat and eggs are really good for you. And if anything, high cholesterol is a good thing as long as it's the correct cholesterol. The cholesterol that's bad for you, as I mentioned earlier, is the cholesterol that's caused by sugars, not by fats. So that brings us to the next one, whilst I remember. I do write these things down, but then I move on and sort of lose my way, and number 4 may suddenly not look like it should be number 4 anymore. So the next one is, as I've just alluded, eat more fats. If you are stalling and you've been following the ketogenic or carnivore protocol, and I get this a lot on Twitter especially, I've been doing it for 3 months and I'm just not getting results anymore. It's obviously not for me. Chances are what has happened there, and this is so easy to do and so understandable, is the person has stopped eating enough fat. And it's counterproductive in your mind. It's counterintuitive in your mind to eat lots of fat if you plan on losing body fat. Why would you eat more fat when you're trying to get rid of the damn stuff? Just let my body eat the fat on my ass. That's all I ask. Is that too much to ask? The fact is, your body used to eat lots of carbohydrates. It used to use those carbs from the pizza, from the potatoes, from the crisps, from the chips, from the McDonald's burger, from all the shit sugar that's in processed foods, from the sugar in your cup of coffee, from the orange juice, from the bread, of course, and the jam and the peanut butter, which has got sugar in it. There are so many ways your body used to get sugar in the form of sugar or in the form of carbohydrates. Your gut just converts those carbohydrates into sugar. Rice, pasta, all of those things, they all get converted in your body to sugar. So your body used to have all of those. If you've followed the protocol that I talk in my first podcast to become ketogenic or carnivore, effectively carnivore is ketogenic because you're using ketones. The theory is you're using ketones. Ketones are a flash way of saying fats. A ketone is a product that is created from fats being burnt in your body. Your body breaks down a fat, which is called a lipid. There are various types of lipids. Breaks them down into ketones, and those ketones are then used for your body as a form of energy. Whilst I remember people who say, but your brain needs glucose. Don't worry. Your body is so intelligent, it can manufacture its own glucose from, wait for it, fats and ketones. It can create its own glucose for the purpose of running its brain. And that's why people like myself, I've been pretty much carnivore for the last several weeks, several months perhaps. And I've been keto for over a decade, 12 odd years. And that's why my brain still, to my knowledge, works really well. Incidentally, my sex drive is really good too. If you have, I know I'm really diverting here. If you have a problem getting it up, if you have a problem with your libido, doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Obviously, if you're a woman, you shouldn't be thinking about getting it up, but you might have a poor libido, you may have really bad menopause, you may have problems with your periods. A lot of those things are related to how much protein and how much fat you eat. And if you don't eat enough fat, then your body can't manufacture all of the hormones that are involved with that process of all of your sex life is all hormonal. Get rid of the carbs, up the proteins, eat more proteins like healthy meats, fish, all that sort of stuff, and eat more fats, and you will be amazed with where your hormones go. Where I was saying before, you need to eat more fat to keep your body burning fat. You eat fat, your body burns that fat as its form of energy, and then because you're not snacking between meals, when your body says, okay, it's been 4 hours since I had that last meal, I've kind of used all of the fat that he gave me, she gave me. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go off and I'm going to pull some fat off my bum cheeks, off my belly, off my bingo wings, and I'll use that. And that's how you lose weight on a ketogenic, carnivore, low carbohydrate diet. It's no magic. Your body can use, and people who aren't keto will argue this till the bloody cows come home. The fact is, your body is burning fat. Robert Atkins said it years ago. I think that was in the 60s or the 70s. He said his Atkins diet was low carbohydrate, and he didn't really give a crap about how much protein or fat, but he said the same thing. Your body will switch to burning fat. When it's burning fat, when it runs out of dietary fat, that's the fat you eat, it will go and grab some fat from your ass, and that's how you lose body fat. Because you've got plenty of fat on your ass, sorry to keep talking about your ass like this, or your belly, because you've got plenty of fat on your body never runs out, so it's never having to go and eat your muscular mass because it's not in starvation mode. And it's not in starvation mode because when you eat one of those 3 or 2 main meals, you eat until you're full. Don't bother counting calories. Don't ever count calories. Just eat good protein, good healthy fats until you're full, not a mouthful more, but not a mouthful less. Eat until you're full. And you go, yep, I think I'm done here. I did it last night. I cooked some lamb chops up and I had them with loads of butter. And I poured the lamb, because the lamb chops, of course, are fatty. So I cooked them in the air fryer. That meant in the well underneath the air fryer, there was a heap of the lamb fat. And I poured that over the lamb. Anyone watching might go, oh my God, he's going to die. He's going to die. But I don't think it's going to kill me. I think it's going to make me very bloody healthy, to be frank. So I poured that over. So I had my lamb chops with, they were lamb steaks. I just realised they didn't have any bones in them. So I would chop a piece of lamb steak off. I'd smear it in the lamb fat that was sort of swilling around my plate. And then I'd rub half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of butter onto that forkful, and I'd eat it. And I had plenty of salt because I'm not salt averse. Salt is good for us. And it was bloody delicious. I ate until I was full, and I had a bit of leftover, probably a couple of inches square, maybe, 1 inch by 1.5 inches square of meat sitting on my plate with a bit of butter. And I thought, no, I'm full now, and I put it to the side. That was me done. And then I haven't had breakfast this morning. I'm talking to this. It's sort of 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And I will go down shortly and have breakfast, which will be 2 beef patties. It'll be 3 strips of streaky bacon. Streaky bacon is my preferred bacon because it's got more fat on it. I'll fry that in butter. I'll fry it in unsalted butter because the bacon is already salty, so it doesn't need any help from the butter. I'll chuck that on the plate, and then I'll have my cheese and egg waffle that I cooked yesterday. And if you want to know what that is, go on my social media, especially Twitter, and you'll find it at Keto Pete 2023. And you'll see it. And the waffle is great, and the waffle will be covered. The waffle is only cheese and egg, nothing else. Actually, I lie. I put in a little bit of nutmeg and cinnamon because that reportedly increases your metabolism, just lets me sort of burn a bit faster. And I will smear that waffle with butter and fill up all of the holes, the waffle holes, with butter. And it's really nice. For some people who are like, oh, I couldn't eat that much fat, you have to start with baby steps, and you'll learn once you get used to it and you get carbohydrates out of your life, you'll find that those fats are really good. And the important thing is, if you have stopped losing weight, if you have stalled, chances are it's because you have decided that you're not going to eat so much fat because fat's bad. I've been told this for 50 years. Fat's bad. It's unhealthy. Bullshit. And because if I'm eating all this fat, I'm not going to lose fat. How can I lose fat if I'm eating fat? Well, trust me. Eat more fat and you'll find that you will start to lose fat. So that's another way of stopping you from stalling or from reaching your revolutionary change. So another way you can keep an eye on things if you have stalled or if you are looking at doing this and you haven't yet stalled is by watching out for other things that you think are healthy. By this, I mean protein shakes, especially if you're a gym goer. I'm a gym goer. If you have lots of protein shakes, have a good look on the label as what is in that protein shake, because quite often they'll have a lot of sugar in them. Some of them can be designed for bulking people up, so they're full of carbohydrates. If you're going to have whey protein, try to go for an isolate that doesn't have any other stuff in it, just a whey protein isolate. I use a beef protein, incidentally. You'll find it on Amazon. Just tap in beef protein isolate. It's different from whey because whereas whey sort of becomes a milky, creamy thing, beef protein is a juice, and you add it to water, and it's got more colouring and flavouring in than a bullshit shit, but it is quite delicious. I have one of those when I go to the gym. It's in my juice bottle, and I chuck in a teaspoon of electrolytes with that, which is also a little container I've bought, and that's my juice that I use at the gym. And that's the only time I have it. Be careful with how many protein shakes you have because they can have lots of other stuff in them. Health food bars. You're at the supermarket and you go, oh, look, there's a health food bar. Oh, it's got 20 grams of protein in it. Great. Have a look at what other crap is in it, and you'll probably find it's loaded with sugar or sugar alcohol or something. If you can, and certainly at the start you may want that sort of stuff just because, especially if they use artificial sweeteners, you may want that. Bear in mind that protein bar, that snack, is a snack. And remember I just said earlier, if you can avoid snacks, even when you've finished at the gym and you're thinking, I need some food in me, I can feel myself, there's a big word, catabolizing as I speak. Well, no, you're not. If you're on a keto diet, and I quite often do this, I can have a seriously hard workout, like a legs workout, and I might have to go for a few hours before I eat anything. And that doesn't matter, because when you're on a keto diet, your body has evolved to look after itself. It's not on carbohydrates. It's not desperate to get food every bloody moment of the day. It doesn't need to be fed 5 or 6 times a day, as a lot of bodybuilders will do. It doesn't need all of that crap. It can look after itself as long as you eat enough protein during the day. And that's where I will then eventually get to. I'll get home from the gym. I'll have bought some groceries on the way home, so I'll put those away. I might chuck some meat into the air fryer. I'll go and have a shower. Then I'll come back down and make myself comfortable. And then I'll eat my tea. And it can easily have been an hour since I worked out. And that's even when I'm doing a really hard out workout like squats and deadlifts at the gym. The other way that you can seriously make a dent in losing weight, losing body fat, and maintaining muscle, importantly, and getting stronger and getting healthier is, I hate to say this, exercise. If you're sitting behind a car all day because you're a sales rep, you're doing lots of driving, a lot of my colleagues fall into this category. They do lots of driving all day and they don't have time to go to the gym. They don't have time to go for a walk. You've got to make time. Start off with walking just to get the ball rolling. If you are big at the moment, there's every chance that the thought of exercise really can make you feel almost ill. Then you get the people on social media who say you just need to exercise more and eat less. They're the people who don't have one clue of what they're talking about. If you're really large, you may struggle to exercise. And so, therefore, the first thing I want you to do is change your diet. Get rid of those carbs. Switch over to being ketogenic or carnivore. Get your body used to that. And you will already start to lose body fat in that process. But at some stage, your energy levels will pick up. Because your energy levels have been low, this is for people who generally are obese, your energy levels have been low because of the hormone problem that you've got inside your body. You've probably already also been depressed. You could be borderline bipolar. You'll find all of those things will start fixing themselves. So just give yourself a break. Lose weight first, then after maybe a month, start thinking, right, I'm going to go for a walk, and that walk could be 15 minutes. It could be around the block. It could be to the end of your street and back, and you think, yeah, okay, that wasn't too bad. Tomorrow, I'm going to do, say if the end of your street and back was 5 minutes, tomorrow, next week, I'll think about doing 10 minutes. It's not a race to the end. This is not a race to the end. There's no finish line. The finish line is when you pop your clogs And we're hoping that finish line is quite a distance away from now. That's the purpose. That's the why. The why we are doing this. So after a while you've been walking, you're getting to the stage where you can walk a wee way and you're starting to feel all right. At that stage, if you can, I'm going to really scare people now, get yourself down to the gym, then that will be a big step forward. You can still do some cardio, but you need to push weights. The reason you need to push weights is because you're waking your muscles up, you're keeping your muscles strong. For some of you, you may be using muscles you haven't used for decades. You need to work those muscles to make them strong, to get your bones strong, because as we get older, our bones weaken. We need to get the muscles strong so that we maintain mobility. So when that grandkid's on the floor and they need their nappies changing, you can quite adequately get down there, change the nappies, give the kid a tickle and all that sort of stuff, and then grab the kid and stand up with the kid and with the baby in your clutches. That's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to do it now and in 10 years and in 20 years' time. Depends on how often your kids have babies, I suppose. But you get the drift. So, I've got a list here to sum up 7 takeaways. This is the 7 things I would like you to remember, if you can, about today's exercise. First of all, though, and this isn't part of the 7, always, if you can, remember the why. Why do you want to lose weight? Why are you going to go down this path? Why are you looking for a revolution in your body, in your mind, in your life? Why? Because I want to live longer. Why? Because I want to live healthier. Why? Because I don't want to get Alzheimer's. Why? Because I don't want to leave loved ones behind. And why? I just want to look better. I want to look hot so I can meet hot women, for me, on Tinternet. That's a personal thing. At some stage, I'd like to have a girlfriend and I would like her to enjoy us, and I would certainly not want to start getting fat again just because I'm in a relationship. How many people got fat when they became comfortable in a relationship? And then the relationship turns belly up, turns tits up, and next thing you know, you're that comfortable person in a very uncomfortable single environment. Right, number 1 takeaway. Eat healthy, natural foods. Healthy proteins, healthy fats. Salt, water, that's about it, really. And you can, again, listen to podcast number 1, gives you a good long list. And the caveat to number 1, therefore, is don't eat carbohydrate rubbish. That's how you got fat in the first place. Number 2, eat until you are full. Eat 3 meals a day until you are full. Don't eat after you're full. Don't stop before you're full. And if you're not eating the carbohydrates, you will feel full. In fact, you'll probably be surprised. If you've been eating lots of carbs, you'll often have eaten and not felt full, or you've felt full and then within an hour you're starting to feel hungry again. That shouldn't happen once you get rid of your carbs, because carbs are what are causing your stomach, your brain, to always want more food. Number 3, eat 2 or 3 meals a day. Some people eat 1. I don't advocate it, but that's just me. For a lot of people, it works. I eat generally 2 meals a day, breakfast and tea. Don't eat more than 3 meals a day, but make them good meals. Number 4, don't snack between meals. Don't snack. Don't forage. I'm sure there are other words for it. You know what I mean. Don't come up with excuses for why you need to forage. Don't have that health food bar, that protein bar after the gym, because I deserve it. Your body deserves to lose some bloody weight. Your body deserves to get a shed load healthier. Don't snack between meals. Number 5, watch out for sneaky inputs. By this, I mean the likes of tomato sauce and all sorts of other little condiments and things that you could be putting on and not even realize that they are full of sugars and carbohydrates. Watch out with everything. Also on that thing, with the sneaky things, watch out for the drinks you have. If you're drinking beer, you might want to think seriously about limiting it. I'm not talking about it from an alcoholic or a health point of view. I'm talking about it because alcohol is actually got higher calories in it than carbohydrates. And your body will always burn the alcohol first, then the carbohydrates, and then eventually it will burn fat. If you're drinking alcohol, then it's the alcohol that will be burnt first, and while your body is metabolizing alcohol, it's not metabolizing fats, and so it's not burning your body fat. So it could be another reason why you've stagnated. You're just letting too much alcohol sneak in, especially in the evenings. If you are going to drink alcohol, then, and I'm going out tonight and I will drink alcohol. If you are going to, then make sure it's just not a regular occurrence. It's not every night of the week. And if it is every night of the week with a glass of red wine, that's fine. It's not 3 glasses of red wine, 2 Proseccos, and a whiskey chaser. Because the alcohol will keep you fat. Number 6, eat enough protein and fat. This is really important. Eat enough protein and fat. Now, if you're not eating carbohydrates or not eating many carbs, then you're going to be bloody hungry if you don't eat lots of protein and fat. Eat until you're full, but eat protein and make sure you're adding enough fats. On your plate, you should try to get to a sort of a 50-50 by weight ratio of protein to fat. Now bear in mind that big lump of beef, sirloin steak, or that beef patty has got a lot of water in it, so it's not all protein. I'm going to have a guess here, but say if you have a steak that weighs 200 grams, then it might only be 50 grams or 60 grams worth of protein. And it'll say on the label, or you could always Google it and say how much protein in my sirloin steak, and it'll tell you on average. So what that means is you don't have to have 200 grams of sirloin and 200 grams of fat. That's not the ratio. It's 200 grams of protein. So that would be 60 grams. Sorry, it's the protein. Scribble out that 200 I just said. So if the protein is only 60 grams on your plate, then you need roughly 60 grams of fat. And that can be in the form of cheese. Bear in mind that cheese has got protein in it, so you might need a bit more, but it's nice and fatty. Or butter. Butter is good because it's really fatty. It could be oil like olive oil, avocado oil. Some people don't recommend it. I don't mind. I don't use much these days because I normally cook a steak in, for example, lard, and so I'll pour that lard over the top of the steak, and I'll have it with butter. And so I can get that 50-50 ratio pretty quickly. But you need to have that 50-50 ratio of protein to fat. That's how your body will work. And if you decide to cut back on your fat because your brain keeps telling you that's a good idea, you're going to have to override your brain and say, no, that's a shit idea. Sorry, that's a bad idea. Number 7, watch out for protein shakes and health food bars and everything else because they can have all sorts of crap in them. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this session. I actually recorded this last night and then decided that I didn't like it. So I thought, lying in bed this morning, I thought, I'm going to do that again. So here we are. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, you want to hear more, please hit the subscribe button. Also, I will have guests on in the near future. I have had guests in the past, as you probably know, and I will have guests in the future. I did hope to have one a couple of days ago, but things happened that prevented that from happening. So I hope in the near future I'll have more guests, because guests are really interesting. Anyway, thank you for your time. Have a good day. Have good health. Let's work on that revolution. We can work on it together. Follow me on Instagram. That's See Your Toes Again. Facebook, See Your Toes Again. X or Twitter is at KetoPete 2023. KetoPete 2023. Follow me on there. I'd love to see you. Say hello if you feel like it. All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.